Hello friends, and welcome to this comprehensive review of the Shark UL by Areobask. We're on the ground here in John Wayne, Orange County. I'm going to make a little trip over to Avalon, Catalina. As you can hear, the weather ain't great, so we're going to go and get a start real quick. So coming inside, first thing is look at the raindrops on this canopy. Love this. We're obviously going to get wet leaving it open, so let's slam that shut. There's actually quite a lot to this aircraft. Hang on, let's slam it shut. Where we go? Oh, got to come all the way up here. Got to pull this catch here. There we go. All right, like a glider, you've got one seat front and one seat back there. The two ladies weren't photoshopped in. They do actually appear, but they, for whatever reason, wait for you to get the engine up and running. You know, you get the engine up and running, then the ladies will appear. Right, so coming inside the cockpit, there's quite a lot to this one. I actually took the checklist file that comes with the aircraft and stuck it into my charts folder just so we can have a quick look. Here, there, the stopwatch. We'll take a look at some of those instruments, including the stopwatch once we get underway. I'm going to go ahead, skip through some of this just because it does take quite a long time. So I'm just going to do it rather than describe every single step what I'm doing. So you can see this aircraft, because there's so much about this aircraft that is really good and unique to this aircraft, which is, again, what, in my opinion, makes it probably the best. And we'll see if you agree by the end of this video. As with all my reviews, they're completely unpaid, unbiased. I mean, if anything, I'm a bit biased against general aviation because I like my X-plane to actually fly the planes that I can't fly in real life. Not airplanes that I can put some money on the side at the local airport and fly should I wish. Not that there's a shark at my local airport, but I think you get the idea with general aviation. Right, so canopy closed locked just as well because we can hear the rain there. So I'm going to go ahead and make a start. So master switch on. EFIS and avionics switch is on, so from the left. And if you want to be really lazy, you can literally just switch all of these on and hold down the engine starter switch. You do have to wait for things like oil temperature and so on, so it's not necessarily the best way to go, but it's possible. You can customize this screen here in front of us to the nth degree. We'll have a look at that, so don't think, oh, I can see there's a nice looking six-pack, but it's very garish, so no, not for me. You can customize it. You can have just a plain grey background if that's your thing. This is synthetic vision as well. Again, nothing particularly new. All right, let's carry on then. So flap switch is set 0 to stop the blinking. So that's this here. So we'll click that. There we go. Instrument values check. So I'm going to use the Avi tab to get the radio frequency to find out what the weather's doing. We're using live weather. Now, usually you'd use this thing here to go to Avitab, you go Navigraph, but this is now completely integrated with this Skyview touch. And this, in my opinion, is one of the things that makes this aircraft amazing and why I'm genuinely happy to be reviewing this aircraft because, let's be fair, not every aircraft ever is great, and that may include some that I've looked at in the past, although I will mention no names. Well, actually, if you've watched my reviews, I think you'll know what I'm okay with and what I'm genuinely impressed with. So let's go ahead and make a start here with contacting ATC. So first we need to find the frequency. How do we do that? So if we can press the back button so we get this screen here. So in other words, it no longer says back on the left. This is like your main page. If you press the screen button here we can actually go into customizing the screen or what is shown on the screen. Specifically, we've got the flight instruments. Here we've got engine and battery and oil stuff, electronics, fuel. And then here we've got a map view. Now, to show all three, as you can see, it's possible, but it's a little bit cluttered. So what I'm going to do is actually uncheck what I don't want, at least for now, so we can focus on the map view. It is a touch screen, and the way that they simulate that is you just click and drag with your mouse as if you're touching and dragging with your finger. If you use your mouse wheel, it's like, you know, pinching to zoom in and out. And so if we zoom out, you can see you can zoom out a long way and zoom in as well, although I guess the flight plan probably doesn't work that far, but who knows. And so what we're going to do, or the fuel tanks, because they're small fuel tanks, what I'm going to do is just quickly customize this page. Actually, I have customized it already, so the waypoints or the fixes don't show. Otherwise, we've got loads of dots. And so what you see here is actually airports. All of these things here are airports, with the exception of things like this, which is your VOR beacon. And again, you can customize that using your menu. What we're going to do is select our airfields, which is again where our aircraft is here, by clicking on the airfield itself, on the letters. So in this case, Kilo Sierra November Alpha. So click on right on that, and you get this little thing here that shows information about what you've clicked on. John Wayne, Orange County. Yes. See this little green triangle here? Click on it. That gets you further information. And within this now, if you look below, we've actually got a charts page here. This is what you clearly need Navigraph to access this. But check this out. We hit the charts button. And here now, in this case, it's showing this because I'd actually loaded this before. But in case I hadn't, if you press the list page here, this here is literally the different pages on Navigraph as though you were viewing them on here. I don't realize it doesn't say 10.9 and all the numbers, but these are the pages. And so you've got your airport page, you've got your departures, your arrivals, your approaches, and a reference page as well. So if we click overview, this is where we are. And again, what we're looking at here is Navigraph charts. Not to say if you don't have Navigraph that you can't use this aircraft, you just can't use this very specific feature of it. And again, the integration I'm a big fan of. It's a little bit finicky in parts. So for example, if I press the back button to change some other setting and then come back to the maps view, this list page isn't highlighted anymore. And that may sound like, well, what does that mean? What it means is, even though, as we see there, we've got the list, we can turn it on and off. If I go back and come back, because the list view disappears, I can no longer turn it on and off. So this thing is stuck. So you may say, well, how do you fix that? That sounds annoying. You've actually got to go into come out of the map settings entirely, go back into them as though you were loading it for the first time, and then toggle it on and off, and then it'll catch up with itself. That may sound like a lot of word salad, and it is, but when it happens to you and if it happens to us, just know it's a little finicky till you get it sorted out. Hopefully they'll fix that so that they remember, if I press back now and then come back into the maps page, it remembers I was looking at the list. Let's come over then to the airport page, click the airport info. You can see we're highlighted there in a green aircraft, which, especially in night view, which is what I've got selected here, is easy to see. You can change it if you come over here to the options. You can press this one here, view it in day mode. In order to do that, you just need to reload the page and you get it in day. Personally, the bright green on the white doesn't really do much for me, so even though it's not night time, we're going to view night, and again, to refresh, just load the pages like so. Right, what I'm looking for is the ATIS info, so in this case 126.0 as we see, so that's what we're going to dial in. So we'll turn on, we'll use COM2. So it's got two radios as this aircraft. COM1 is controlled using the Garmin here. You've got the active as well as the standby. COM2 using this device here. So we'll hold the on-off button. Wait for that to load. And the frequency we were looking for is 126.0. So we'll go with this one. It's already there, 126.95. So we'll just dial the frequency up to 126.0. Press this to activate it. We see that it's receiving RX. So why aren't we hearing anything? The answer is because we can only use one radio at a time, and that's controlled with this. We've got COM1 and COM2, so we'll drop that down.
02 left, 02 right. Departing runway 02 left, 02 right. Advise on initial contact you have information whiskey.
All right, so I marked down for the fact that I can't control the volume using
Orange County John Wayne information whiskey 20
this.
Zulu. wind, light, and very
But some of you may notice there's a volume on here, so let's try.
Sky conditions broken at 3,900.
Setting.
At 9,600. Scattered at 14,500.
Volume.
Temperature 18. Dew point.
Alright, so the volume works there.
0.
So let's give it 9.5 points. You can still change the volume. 10, by the way, is the maximum, which may sound fine when I'm trying to shout over it without the engine running. With the engine running, it is not good enough. It's far too quiet, and again, I think this is an X-Plane issue. And so I've actually come into the sound settings and reduced the sound of the aircraft and the environment so that we can hear the radio when everything is up and running. And again, I think it's an X-Plane problem, is that.
Scattered at 14,500. Temperature 18.
Let's get the pressure then.
Altimeter 29090. Arriving runway 02 left, 02 right. Departing runway 02 left, 02 right. Advise on initial contact you have information. Whiskey.
Right, so 2990 and it's 02 left, 02 right for departure. The departure runway will get off tower, but let's just go with 2990. So first off, let's come out of this for now. We'll go to screen and let's get the primary flight controls on. And so what we need to do is set this one here to 2990. The way that you do that, you just move the mouse over the relevant part of the screen. And I'm just going to, again, use the mouse wheel. So again, it's just like pressing it with your finger and then swiping. That's what we're doing here. So we're going with 2990. There we go. Got to be careful I don't swipe on another part of the screen. Very much worth binding your views so you can quickly get around to stuff. You know, if you want to, I just use the usual numpad controls to do that. So with 2990 on the primary, I'm going to set that on the backup instrument, which is behind this one. It's actually this circle here. But in order to control it, I'm just going to hide the tablet. And this one here will go for 2990. There we go. And then click there to get that back. Right. We've done that. We've done that. Fuel tank throttle. And again, I'm going to try work through this. So cold engine, it is cold. We've not just arrived with a warm engine. Cowl flaps open. Pull them open. Fuel pump on if left tank is used. So let's just have a look with what is the fuel tank situation. Well, actually, much less. So what I've noticed in this aircraft, it does remember your fuel state between flights. And so what I'm going to do is using the ground option, I'm just going to balance my fuel. There we go. Easy as that. Right, left tank fuel is selected. That's this one here. So we've got, it is defaulted into the left position, but you can turn it off or put it on the right tank, which you need to do because there isn't a both setting. But we'll go left, and with it, fuel pump on. Can hear it. Right, shout clear, and we're already at engine start. And so I remember this when I was learning to fly. Clear prop! And then hitting the starter. It does have parking brakes, so you don't need to squeeze the brakes. So if I squeeze, now you see the parking brake handle disappear. There is a button about that you can bind to basically pull that lever, so parking brake is set. So I'm going to leave that so I don't forget to squeeze the brakes. What we need to do then, turn the mags on. Magnetos 1 and 2, so they're here. 1, 2, and with that we're good to go. So let's put the position lights on. Let everybody outside know we're about to start. Clear prop, and we got a good catch in 2 or 3 seconds. It says their maximum push is 10 seconds. Then we got to wait for 2 minutes before we could use the starter again to cool. Let's now get the engine information on screen. We'll get rid of the flight controls as well as the... Well, let's view it like that, actually. Let's have the flight controls as well as the engine information here. So what we need to wait for now is, if we take a look here, oil pressure came up good. We're well in the green, but the oil temperature is far too cold. And again, thick oil is hard to pump round. Remember, oil has got to flow around the engine to cool it and then come away from the engine to the radiator and then back again. And that forms like a circuit with the oil. If the oil's really cold, you may say, well, surely that's good if it's got to cool the engine down. Yeah, but don't forget, thick oil is like, you know, gulpy. It can't be pushed around the system. So what happens is the oil that's immediately where the engine is starts heating up and heating up and heating up, but it can't be pumped away quick enough because the rest of the oil in the rest of the circuit is still cold. So it's important to start the engine and wait for it to warm up so it can slowly warm up, or as slow as possible, and the whole circuit of the oil, again I use that word circuit, can gradually warm up, and that's measured by this temperature here. So let's carry on. So let's get the other switches on as required, and then we'll come back to that. So we got the pitot heat, we'll get that on. It's wet, and as we see, outside air temperature 90 degrees, so actually it's fine, but we'll put the heat on anyway because we'll be climbing up. So the only things that we haven't got on are strobes and landing lights, which is obviously the way that we want it. Engine warm up, so we need to go for 2000 RPM for 2 minutes, then at 2.5 to reach oil temperature of 50. I'm going to speed through this a little bit so that we're not waiting too long, but let's go for 2000 RPM. And so I'm just going to increase my throttle here till the RPM gauge there gets to 2000. Just pull it back a tad. Again, it doesn't need to be bang on, but there we go, around 2000. And we're supposed to wait now for around 2 minutes for first at idle or 2000 for 2 minutes. So basically that includes, I guess, the other time if it's idle or 2000. Well, we've already been going for around 90 seconds, I guess. So we'll just wait for a little bit more. We'll wait till this stops flashing red and goes yellow. I did fly this a couple of times before. One of the places I flew at was -5 degrees centigrade. It took a lot longer, as you would expect, for the oil temperature to warm up. There you see, we're already on yellow. We're at 31, and so I'm going to assume that that's good for me to actually push it further. So I'm now going to go for 2500, and we have to wait for it to be 50 degrees. Or at the very least, it's got to be 50 degrees before we think about going full power for takeoff. So what I'm going to do now is smoothly increase the throttle further. That's close enough. Perhaps a hair. Oh, there we go. We got it. And as you can see, I'm using very little throttle here. I've cracked it maybe an inch or thereabouts. And so you can see here the temperatures are actually rising quite quickly. So again, it makes a huge difference. It being 19 degrees versus -4 or 5. I also flew with it around 10 degrees. And again, that was still much slower than 19. So that's coming up nice. So while we're waiting for that, let's carry on. And then we've got a higher power set. I remember this when I was doing my scholarship, this, you know, high RPM, and, you know, and it, when you're doing it for the very first time, it's like, oh, we're really getting ready to go. You know, those of you that have flown those little aircraft as a scholarship or otherwise, you'll remember that, and especially if it's your first time. You're sort of nervous as it's getting ready to do the actual flying, but having this thing going, even though you're not moving anywhere, it's like a prelude. It's a bit like the foreplay, right? In any case, 5000 RPM. So I realize it's not quite 50 yet, but we're going to go to save a bit of time. So I'm going to increase to 5000 RPM. Kev, don't firewall it, because you can see it goes up to 5.8, and in my experience, that was enough to pull it off the parking brakes. So there we go, 5000 RPM. I'm now going to drop it to 4000 to do with the next bit of the check. Bit more, there we go, that's close enough, 4000. So what we have to do now is check the mag. So I'm just going to go through this real quick, but we need to drop one side and check the drop is no more than 300 RPM. So let's drop side one first, and you can see it's dropping, what's that, about 130 RPM, so well within the 300 RPM limit, 140 maybe. So we'll put mags on again, and now mag 2. And again, we're losing around 140, 150 RPM, so both of those are within 300. It also then says the difference between the two should not exceed 120. Well, it didn't. We had like 10 RPMs at the very most. That was the difference between 1 and 2, so that's all fine. Then wants us to drop back to idle and check that we've got 1600 RPMs, give or take 100, so let's do that. And we're coming in a little less than 1600. We've actually got 1510. So check idle is 1600. We're right on that limit at 1510. So if it was 1490, that would be above 100 RPM. What would you do? I don't know. Got to be set. Last time I did this, I actually had about 1550, although the temperature was cooler outside. So it must be something to do with the temperature that's impacted that value. Okay, next page, page 4. Before taxi, close the canopy, fuel valve left, which we have done. Throttle to 2.5, open the cooling, well, they're already open as we can get it. Ventilation into the airstream, that's a stopwatch, we'll take a look at that. So, you know, if we want to open this, we can do. Listen to the sound. Little things, right? Flaps lever, check 1, 2, 3. So we'll do this just before and then we'll contact ATC. So flaps are in, as you see. So they're up or 0. And even though there are 4 buttons here, and I don't have 4 buttons spare on my joystick, but I do have a flaps up and down lever that's specifically for flaps, you'll be pleased to know you can cycle through the buttons using flap up and down like what I've done there, which may sound obvious, and I guess in some aircraft it is, but just so you know. So there we go, flaps 1, and again we've got to verify their position, so we see they've very clearly come down on the left, they've come down on the right, so let's go flaps 2. We very clearly see the movements, and they're further there. Let's go flaps 3, which is flaps full, and again we see it move there and there. Great, so flaps is all good, let's leave it. Flaps 2, flaps 1, which is what we're told to do. Let's come back over here. Landing gear breaker switch on and position of things. So the landing gear breaker switch, at least for me, is on by default. That's this one here. But it says to turn it on. So if it was off, you need to turn it on. And then you've got to wait and verify 3 green, which we've now done. Position of landing is down. We've got 3 green. Charge and control light check, so that's this one here. So if you start running low on battery, which I did on my first flight, this lights up. Reasons unknown, but somebody else in the forum having a similar issue, but then said subsequent flights they didn't have the issue, and I haven't either, to be fair. So, you know, if you do have a problem with your battery running out on your very first flight, again, I was flying for about 2 hours, so in total. So there is, you know, all I'll say is fly a second time and it should be fine. If you don't fly for 3 hours, well, you'll be fine anyway. And yeah, your instruments, as you can see, they're all computer. They failed not all at the same time, one by one. I think the first thing to go, I can't remember if it was the main screen or this one here, but that one went, then that one went, then this one went, and in the raid, or one of these, I can't, or maybe both. And in the end, all I had was the standby instrument, the tablet, because that's, I guess, separate anyway. Right, QNH, well, we've done that. We got the weather. Check minimum. So all the temps and everything is in the green, as we can see. So we'll actually do away with that now. And check minimum 10 litres in left fuel. So again, this thing cycles endlessly. We've got 18.2 litres on the left tank, so that's fine. Radio on. So I'm actually gonna use the Explain ATC for this. And I will warn you now. Well, actually, the first time we'll tune it ourselves, and then we'll use auto tune, and that's just because I'm single pilot, and it's a handful to be trying to fill with your frequencies, especially if you don't have like a radio stack panel, which I don't, and I don't really have the room to have one anyway. So what I'm going to do is actually use this. Let's have a look. So we've got Orange County ground 120.8, and that actually happens to be tuned in already, but let's just assume it wasn't. What you can do here is just dial it like this, 125, whatever, 925, put that in. So again, 120, and then the little dial, you know, I mean, this is probably the only instrument that is not unique to this aircraft. 120.8, we'll activate that, and we'll just contact them. Where are we here? Oh, why is this not working? Com 1, we are on Com 1, 120.8. I know why, because we've got to press here. There we go. Let's get a radio check. This shows your frequencies. This is what you want to say. You could tell I don't usually use the ATC and things. So let's get a radio check in.
Orange County, John Wayne Ground, Foxtrot, Juliet, Sierra, Oscar, Romeo. Radio check.
Foxtrot, Juliet, Sierra, Oscar, Romeo. Reading you loud and clear.
Good, good, good. So I'm just disappearing while I get rid of my gum and have a drink. So let's request VFR departure. So visual flight rules, not IFR, my internet flight rules. And again, we're going to depart to Avalon Catalina, which is roughly southwest. So we'll say departing to southwest.
Orange County, John Wayne Ground, Foxtrot, Juliet, Sierra, Oscar, Romeo. Shark Arrow Shark. 4 local flight returning today. 1 POB. Request taxi for VFR flight departing to the southwest.
Foxtrot, Oscar, Romeo. Runway 02 left, taxi via Bravo and Delta. Hold short of runway 02 left.
Runway 02 left, taxi via Bravo and Delta. Hold short of runway 02 left. Foxtrot, Oscar, Romeo.
All right, 2 left for via Bravo and Delta. Which is easy. So I just got woken there. For those again wondering why I chew so much gum, it's because I, you know, after all these years of smoking, I finally stopped a while ago. Went onto those vape pens, then onto nicotine gum. Now I'm just down to flavored gum, and I can't seem to get over the last hurdle. In any case, right, 02 left. So. Bravo Delta. We've done this. Backup altitude, that was this one here. We tuned that in 2990. Switch breakers, they're all in and on apart from landing light and strobe, which is as it should be. There is no taxi light. So in real life, so this is what it looks like with the nav. In real life, would you use the landing light for taxi and reserve the strobe light for the runway? I don't know. But I'm going to say yes for me, because if you were driving this after hours, there would be no other way to see where you were going at all. So let's go ahead, landing light, and again, strobe light will be our line up or takeoff. Control stick, free movement, ailerons. So let's have a quick look. So this is your control stick here. And if we have a quick look, we can verify there that the ailerons are working. What I will say is, with our parking brake in, check this out. This is something that is completely overlooked in DCS. I don't know why, because it seems like such an obvious thing. If you've got a prop, see how the airflow comes over the prop, across the whole plane, and it ends up going here. So in other words, even though I'm not physically moving across the ground, if I rev up and do this, can you see how the airflow's already coming? It should impact the aircraft. Check this out. Power on. We're not moving, and I'm going to lift the stick up and down. Look how the aircraft's moving. Down, up. Bit more power. Down, up. It's actually pulling us into the suspension there, but you can see as I'm rocking the elevators up and down. I don't know why that's completely neglected in DCS, but it is. There we go. The Warbirds anyway, that have, you know, the props and whatnot. Right, so that's all good. Trim neutral, so that's this indicator here. You can see it's bang on in the middle. So that's great. So come on, let's get on with it. So next one is checks on the line. I'm just going to go through this so we can get on and going. So fuel selector left, it is. Flaps position 1, we know it is. Propeller takeoff, which is, full power, which in automatic as we have, or constant speed as they call it, is 5800. As you can see, I can't add more. I can reduce it, but we've got it on full whack. You can also use this switch here, which I actually have bound, so 5800. Right, switch breakers on. So again, the only one that we need to concern ourselves with is the strobe. Engine pressure and temperature check. Well, we already see it's all in the green, and it's going to stay in the green unless we do either turn it off or redline it for too long. Fuel pump on, which it already is, and we'll leave it on until we get into cruise. Trim neutral, radio report, which is basically, hey, tower ready to go. Right, let's remind ourselves, Bravo Delta. So what's that when it's at home? Well, hopefully we've got... Well, here's Bravo. We can see it's in the black. So again, the black square is where you are. And then the others, well, this is over here. That one's over here. But you are on whatever the black one is. So we need to go Bravo. There's Fox. So where's Delta? Let's have a look. There's Delta. Somebody's saying, look on your map view. I can't actually zoom it in any more than this. So again, I've got to click on it, charts, and then we've got this here. So Delta, Fox Hotel. So Bravo, Alpha's over on the other side. So Bravo must be at the very end here. Actually not indicating. So in other words, we'll have to look out, but... Oh, here's Bravo. So there's Bravo, there's Delta. Okay, found it. So Bravo's right there, Delta. So in other words, we can see we're already facing the right way. Let's go for it. Right. Parking brake off. Here we go. Rudder for a little bit of steering. The tiller does work. Lets you steer a lot more than the rudder will let you, like this. And we'll actually be given a squawk by ATC when we're ready on the to go on the runway, or just before. And as you see, again, look at the raindrops on the canopy. And then look, I'll rev up the prop. I think that effect is amazing. So we're on Bravo, that's Echo, so we've still got a bit to go. We've got this view here, so the next one's Delta. Actually got the run-up spot marked here. But we've completed our run-up, so I guess we shouldn't really have done the run-up where we were, which is to be expected, right? We did the run-up where everybody gets in and out. So here we are at Delta, so I'm going to get rid...
Foxtrot Oscar Romeo. Contact Orange County John Wayne Tower. 119.9.
Contact Orange County, John Wayne Tower, 119.9. Foxtrot Oscar Romeo.
So here we go. So 1990. I'm going to use the auto tune now because we've seen how that works. So I'm going to stop here. And again, the way that these, these sort of little flashing lights and, the way that that's done, I think looks really cool. So let's check in with the tower.
Foxtrot Juliet Sierra Oscar Romeo on taxiway Bravo.
I maybe need to be just a bit closer to the line, so let's just nudge up. I'll use my rudders this time.
Foxtrot Oscar Romeo, squawk 3202, fly heading 020, wind light and variable, runway 02 left, cleared for takeoff.
Squawk 3202, fly heading 020. Runway 02 left, cleared for takeoff. Foxtrot Oscar Romeo.
A lot of zeros and twos and 020s for 020 and 023202. Right, so Squawk. Quite an easy one, but you'd never find it if somebody didn't show you. Click here, and then turn it on, and then codes 3202. There we go. Internet flight rules not 1090 or whatever it is at this moment in time. So we'll go with these. I'm gonna have to squawk what ATC gives us. Usually I like to give the number of subscribers. So that's there. We're on. As you can see, it says on, so that's that. And climb out heading 020. So I've actually bound this. Here's the heading dial. So, but I have bound that. It's just the default X-plane, heading controls. So again, always a fan of when module makers try to use the standard X-plane controls versus customizing everything. It just makes it a lot quicker to set up. So there we go. 020. For whatever reason, X-plane doesn't give you a height to go for, but we'll just go for 3,000 feet. Okay, so with that, strobe light on, we're squawking, parking brakes off. So we've done this normal takeoff, so parking brakes released, throttle full power, so it's a full power job. And drive straight ahead, lift nose wheel at about 27 knots indicated, takeoff speed around 50, accelerate and climb. Do not climb until 62 knots is reached. Okay, here we go. So I guess they want us to lift up and then hold it in ground effect for 62. Bearing in mind the flaps, as you can see there, are good for up to 65. The gear there for 70. The aircraft does take off really quickly with flaps 1. I mean, quick anyway. I've found it works completely fine with flaps 0, but let's just go with a checklist. All right, full power, parking brake off. So I'm going to wind up to 5,000, release the brakes, then go full power. Here we go. Torque trying to pull us over to the left, a little bit of rudder to the right, and we're already there. Let's hold it in that ground effect a little bit. We're already well above ground effect, but there we go. Flaps in, and let's try bring the gear in. And here's this first little issue that I get from time to time, so I'm gonna forget about the gear just for a sec, and we'll go for the autopilot. So let's go flight director, heading, vertical speed,
John Wayne, approach
on.
121.3.
Contact Orange County, John Wayne, approach 121.
So I'm going to let the autopilot do it, and let's try and troubleshoot this landing gear. So again, the master circuit switch is on. Let's try. There we go. It may actually be that there's a deliberate delay after takeoff, that you have to wait 20-30 seconds. That could be actually what the problem is. I say problem, it's not necessarily a problem. Right, let's hit the controller up before he gets upset.
Oscar Romeo, Shark Arrow Shark, from Orange County, John Wayne to Orange County, John Wayne, altitude 1,000, 1 POV, request flight following.
Foxtrot, Juliet, Sierra, Oscar, Romeo, Squawk 3202, altimeter 2989er, flight following.
So we're already on 3202, but as you can see, the pressure's dropped slightly, so let's go 2989, and we'll do the same here. 2989. You can sort of hear now already the battle between the radio volume, even though it's at full blast, and the engine volume, even though we've cut it by half. And so it's flight following. Let's have a look now. Request heading to airport, and I'm looking for The rest of them are too far away. I'm not actually seeing it. Could be this one, Los Alamitos. Let's try this one.
Foxtrot Oscar Romeo. Request heading to Los Alamitos Army Air Force.
Foxtrot Oscar Romeo.
No, it's Avalon Catalina.
Los Alamitos Army Air Force.
Flight heading 2804 Los Alamitos Army Air Force. Foxtrot Oscar Romeo.
Right, let's get 280 in, and we can always change things later. I realise I've got a few things to do here that I've not yet done, so I'm using the mouse wheel this time. There we go, 280, that's in. So, checklist, when it comes to the climb, max speed 5,500, so they want us to reduce this. So let's go down to 5.5. There we go, the maximum. And again, this is not reducing the throttle, it's reducing the RPMs of the propeller. The way it does that is it adjusts the pitch. Now I've already come off full power slightly, as you can see there's full power. I've come off it slightly, and you've got a couple of different ways to climb, unless of course you're flying manually, and that is you've got your good old vertical speed, but you've also got your indicated airspeed and VNAV. So we're already at 3,000, there we go. So let's just demonstrate this up to 4, and again let's go like that. So if I switch to indicated airspeed mode, it's like level change or open climb, you see it says IAS 121. So if I up my nose a bit, it reduces the airspeed. And so let's go, for example, does it by 2 knots at a time. So if you're feeling a little OCD-ish, that may be a problem. I can't get it to say 100 knots, but that's okay. Let's go for 101. Again, the way to overdo that, if it really did bother you, would be to turn it off, adjust your speed slightly, and then turn it on. And so again, the aircraft or the autopilot's going to pitch to maintain 101 knots indicated as we climb up to 4,000, which we are almost there. We heard that beep there. Every 20 minutes the stopwatch beeps, and that's to remind you to switch fuel tank, because again there's no both, it's either left or right. So because we're now more or less in straight and level flight, or we're stable, I'm going to turn the fuel pump off and now switch to the right fuel tank. So left fuel tank you want to do for takeoff and landing, fuel pump on. When you're using the right fuel tank, fuel pump off. And so by default that's going to be for the cruise. Obviously every time you hear that beep, have a look on your fuel, and we see it there. This page changes automatically, but just scroll this wheel to the left, FL, FR, fuel left, fuel right, and there you can see we've got about 3 litres less in the left fuel tank, so we've been running on the left the whole time, and so we're now using the right tank. Okay, so we're at 4,000 feet, so we're well up to cruise. And so what it says here, cruise, reduce the throttle between 4 and 5.5. But we're at 5.5 there, so I'm going to bring it back to 4,000 because we are quite low. There we go. And then it says throttle 24 inches of pressure up to full power as required. The higher you go, the more forward on the throttle you're going to need to maintain that value. So I'm going to bring this back to 24. And again, I'm just moving it slightly, inches of pressure, no less than. So 24 and a bit is great. And so there we go. Now if I increase my RPMs, what...
Foxtrot Oscar Romeo, Squawk 1,200, contact Los Angeles.
By that rain.
18.02
Squawk 1,200, contact Los Angeles. 118.0.
I was trying to get away from the rain for the demo, and I've just gone from the frying pan into the fryer. Right, let's contact the new guy. I'm not going to switch Squawk because they ask you to switch it straight away.
Shark Arrow Shark. From Los
And we'll look at some of these things.
Los Alamitos Army Air Force. Altitude 4,000.
We'll have to go somewhere else.
Plane following.
Foxtrot, Juliet, Sierra, Oscar, Romeo, Squawk 370.
See, everybody wants their own squawk codes.
Flight following.
Squawk 3701, altimeter 2992. Flight following. Foxtrot, Juliet, Sierra, Oscar.
So, as you can see, when it's bouncing around, it's quite difficult to actually click. Three, 7, 0, 1. There we go. 2992. Set. And then the autopilot will automatically dip it down a little bit to as long as you're in height mode. Right, so let's have a look then. So we've been through this, and if ATC keeps bothering us, we'll ignore it. So let's use the tools available to us, not the X-plane ones, but the aircraft, to find this airfield ourselves. So again, screen. So we get the option. We'll go to the map view, and I'm going to scroll back. And so where I was looking for was to go towards the south or the southwest. And I'm wondering if this airfield, if this is it here. So again, we can just, let's zoom out a bit. And also quite hard to click. So this here is San Nicolas Tacan, which I'm looking for Santa Catalina. If this is it here. No. I could of course just view it on the map view on my phone, but that would be cheating. This is it here. Kilo Alpha Victor X-Ray. This is where I'm going. Another thing I love about this aircraft is, yes, you've got your autopilot for your heading mode. That's what we're using. You can switch it to track mode, just like on the Airbuses. So here where we've, if you've got wind like now blowing you across, want to be lazy and not have to factor that in, put it into track mode. And let's go for that's about 265. So I'm going to swing around there, and you can see it's already switched over to the track mode. 265. So as the wind changes, you'll notice the aircraft compensate for that. What I would say is, if you are in rough air, put it in heading mode, because in track mode, and I tried it before, it's constantly trying to first off, you've got the turbulence, and then you've got your aircraft trying to compensate for the new wind, and so you've got compensations upon turbulence, and it's crazy. The aircraft does seem to have stabled out a little bit. So I'm going to try and get above some of these clouds, just so we've got some blue sky and sun to look at. So altitude, I'm going to use, I've set that there. So let's go for like 8,000 feet. We'll try that. And let's go for vertical speed mode and nose up. You can see it's counted there. So 200 feet a minute. We'll go 800 feet a minute. And we'll increase RPMs. Let's go for 5,000. And I'm just going to go, not quite firewall it, but we'll give it a lot. Let's keep it above 25 inches of pressure. See if we can get above this rain. While we're waiting for that, we see we're actually less than 20 miles to go, which is cool. Let's have a look. What else can we see on here? Let's have a look at some of the map views. So if we get rid of that one, so we've got a synthetic vision here. If we come over to the layout option, we can change this. Again, it's hard to click in the turbulence. So, tools, I guess. Time, so you can have Zulu time, which is what I like, just because I'm from the UK, so it's actually 9:30 where I am. And of course, switch that to local time. And that is up there at the top. This can also be changed here on this device. So there you've got local and UTC. This isn't just a clock.
Foxtrot, Oscar, Romeo, Squawk 1,200. Contact Los Angeles.
So I'm going to ignore this for now. I'll tell you what we'll do is auto-tune recommended. I'll turn that off.
124.3.
And what I'm going to do is just detune the frequency on. So there we go. So this here, you can press. There's only 2 buttons to control it, but the way that they work, you can do several things. So this is like a 2-minute timer. You know, so for your engine warm up, and you can change it. So if you, so there we see the countdown. But say if we, let's come back here. Sometimes what you have to do is hold the buttons down in a certain way, and as you can see there, it's just getting used to the way that the buttons work together, and I'll admit it, not used to it. I'm trying to get off this page though. There we go. So again, just learn, and there is a manual. Again, all of these instruments were new to me, so it's learning how to use them all. Probably the easiest is the radio here. This is actually COM2, as we were saying, so you know, I like to use that for the weather usually. Or if I'm on FlightSim, I'll dial in. If I'm on Unicom and I'm expecting to contact somewhere center or approach in a while, I might still be 50 miles away, but if there's nothing else in between, I'll already have that tuned in so I can hear what's what on my way. So that's that one. See, we're still climbing quite nicely. And again, as we get higher, the pressure drops. So I'm going to increase my power again. And I've now firewalled it. Let's turn the sound up. So firewall as we get into the thinner air. Actually going to shut the cowl flaps. I don't think we need those anymore. So yeah, let's carry on. We got a G meter here. So that's this one. See, the minimum max is 0 and 1.7. We could reset that. That's live. As you can see, it's sort of rate for up to 4G, but measures much higher. Horizontal situation indicator, so bearing based off your nav or your VOR or your GPS. And again, that's set through this. So this isn't a tutorial to use this device, and I'll be the first to say I'm not the best at it, but let's, for example, see if we can figure this out. So we'll go screen, map view, we'll go into this spot here, so SX Charlie, and so that'll do. So let's go to here, direct to, and I'm going to choose the big dial, well, the big dial here for Sierra. Next one, X-ray, so I'll dial it backwards to get there a bit quicker. Next one, Charlie. So there we go, Santa Catalina, US Southwest. And that is that spot. And again, if I was to click on it, we can verify, yeah, Santa Catalina Vortac. So I'm going to hit enter to activate. Okay. And now, as our solitary waypoint is to there. So again, if I switch now, let's get that off the screen. Primary map. Back. Let's go to the, where are we here? Tools. Setup. No, where are we? Where are we? See, there's still a lot to get used to here. There we go. Bearing 1. Nav. This should now be dialed in to where we're going. So if I... Sorry, bearing GPS. There we go. So this is actually saying 29.4 miles to the south. I'm not sure if that is correct. Is that correct? 29.4 says it's to the south. And here's our drift. So we're supposed to be in the middle. So the more that we're heading west when we should be heading south, the further off course to the right we're getting. So this green bar is basically saying, hey, you need to turn left. And you're actually 1.5 miles, nearly 2 miles too far off course. So if I turn left, and so yeah, this yellow arrow is actually pointing towards where we need to go. For some reason I thought it was that island over there, but then again, what do I know? We have actually made 8,000 feet as well while I've been waffling. And we're very nearly out the tops of the clouds. Let's just grab another, I don't know, let's go for another 1,000 feet. vertical speed, and we'll go for it quickly. Let's go for 1200 feet. It could never sustain 1200 feet a minute, but for 1000 foot with the speed, I'm sure it can do it. All right, there we go. So there's the island. My bad. Trust your instruments. Trust your instruments. So 28.1 nautical miles. And again, this is not the VOR beacon. This is the GPS position of the VOR beacon. Now we can dial the beacon in as well. So let's do that. So we'll use this screen. And screen, map view. It's actually showing it off kilter here for... Oh no, I beg your pardon, we're there. Forget what I'm saying, it's all working fine. So click on the beacon as well. There we see the frequency 14.15. So coming over here to the VOR or the localizer here, I'm going to... I think, is it this one here? I need to select this one. Push, there we go. 14.15. Move that to the top, that makes that active. So now if I switch this away from GPS, let's get rid of all of this as well. Screen, just back to this one. And back. Bearing 1. Bearing 1. There we go, nav 1. So this is now physically tuned in as a radio to that nav 1 beacon, the physical beacon on the ground. This is the GPS position to the same, to the same place. So let's see if we could use this. Horizontal situation source. So here we've got nav 1, the actual information more traditionally. So let's get rid of the bearing altogether. So nav 1, you can see it's set to, what's that about? Well, there's the course, 208. So this now, like any VOR, you can use as a course beacon. And again, this isn't really a tutorial. I'm just trying to show you as much of this aircraft as possible. You can see it still takes me a moment or two to find it myself. So currently, we're approaching this on a heading of 173. So if I was to increase that to 180, and we were to be in line with that, we would be on the 360 radial. So let's intercept that. So I'm going to manually turn my heading to the left, and then I'm going to press on the nav option here, and that is going to intercept the VOR beacon and fly us in on that radial, old school style. Let's drop the RPMs back now for cruise. And I'll see if we can contact them yet. And Catalina AWAS, do they not have a tower? These are all the ATISes. I'll tell you what, let's contact whoever it says here and see if we can get to Catalina. So SoCal will auto-tune, why not?
Foxtrot, Oscar, Romeo, Shark, Arrow, Shark, from towards Zambrini Field, altitude 9,000, 1 POV, request flight following.
Options here, reflections on canopy, we'll have a quick, and you've got, these are for all the unique instruments that they have, and you've got a few options that's basically, are you going to allow it to pop out of its view or not? I've set it so, default is if you even click on it, which often I did by accident, it would pop out. I've set it so I have to right click on it if I want it to pop out, but you can turn that off as well. And then when you move your mouse into the corner here, you actually get rid of it that way. Right, Squawk 4504, so let's do this before this guy gets upset. Code 4504. Really is a hands full for me, not being familiar at all with the aircraft or the instrumentation, or flying really with ATC from X-Plane, but it's a lot of fun to do. Squawk 4504, okay, so that's in. Right, request visual at airports Do we have Catalina? Why do we not? Why is it not giving us as an option? I'm concerned because we're only 17 miles away. And as you can see, it's not showing up as an option. Tell you what, we're just going to go... Let's go to Long Beach.
Foxtrot, Oscar, Romeo. Request landing.
And we'll follow ATC from here on in for the rest of the video.
Foxtrot, Oscar, Romeo. Turn left, heading 020. Runway 30. Wind light and variable.
Turn left.
Okay, left turn 020, so let's get the heading mode on.
Oscar, Romeo.
Foxtrot, Oscar, Romeo. Turn left, heading 010. Vectors for the visual runway 30. Descend and maintain 5,000.
Turn
Okay,
left,
down
heading
to 5.
010. Vectors for the visual runway.
I'm going to reduce power,
Descend and maintain 5,000.
vertical speed,
Foxtrot,
and we'll
Oscar,
get that
Romeo.
going. So 020, oh, it then gave us 010. Let's get rid of that. Down to 5. So vertical speed 500 feet a minute. Let's go for 950. Got to be careful when you reduce power for too long that the engine doesn't overcool. So what I'm going to do is increase the RPM back to 5,000, even though I am bringing the power back. Speeds, there's fine. Let's get the nose down a little more. So there we are, we're on a heading. If ATC gets upset that you're not flying the heading when you are, just switch it over to track view, track navigation. So I don't think ATC at all accounts for the wind, which in real life obviously they do because every other aircraft is in the same wind. But X-Plane ATC, a bit finicky I found in that regard. So if I keep saying 010 and you're thinking I am, just correct for the wind. In this case, it's a pretty much tailwind, slight quartering. So if it was to get upset, 009 would probably do it, which is probably not enough to throw it off. As you can see, some of the speeds are quite slow. So if we're doing 90 knots and we've got a 20 knot wind blowing us over, ATC will get upset. So I'm not going to worry too much about charts for landing because, you know, that's a Navigraph thing and we've seen Navigraph, the implementation of it. Where was it we was actually going to? Zampanini Fields, Torrance. Okay, what's the... I wonder which one that one is. Maybe this one, TOA. Yeah, there we go. So this is where we're going. I wonder if that's the pressure at the field, which would be useful. Let's click on it. It's asking me to sign into Navigraph again. So even within a longer session, it does forget. So I'm just going to say yes, allow.
Foxtrot, Oscar, Romeo. Turn right, heading 110. Descend and maintain 2,000.
Turn right, heading 11.
I'm going to bring the power back even more.
2,000. Foxtrot, Oscar.
110, and let's increase the vertical speed down to 2. There we go. So here's the info. Charts. I assume this is the non-Navigraph information, and if you press the charts button here, this is for Navigraph. I'm assuming. Glide slope 3.4 degrees. We've got the ILS frequency there. Again, we're just going visual, so I'm going to ignore that. What I did want, just so that I have it, is the airport page there, so I've got an idea on the length. So a 5,000 foot runway, which is plenty for this aircraft. Okay. She got zoom in buttons as well, but why you'd use that when you've got a mouse and a dial?
Foxtrot, Oscar, Romeo. Turn right, heading 120.
Turn right, heading 120.
Bit of turbulence.
Foxtrot, Oscar, Romeo.
120 is in, and again I'm just double tapping enter to get rid of that. Let's get rid of that and back screen, get rid of that. There we go. Quick check on the instrumentation. Everything is in the green. How are we doing fuel-wise? So you can see the right tank is now less than the left by 13. So we'll remember to switch tanks in a moment and then turn the fuel pump back on. Yeah, so the problem I had initially with the battery running out was here, and you can see we're well in the top of the green band. This basically drained left and left, and when it got into the yellow, things began to fail. And you know, you can see if you lose all your instruments here, it's not good. Actually, on the setting page here, you can see what some of the instruments are doing, which is interesting. There it says about avoiding prolonged cooling, you know, so don't idle all the way down from a huge height, because engine causes bother if you get, you know, if it gets too cold. So this here, I'm just going to feel the landing out. Is this an oil rig? Indeed it is, look at that. It's actually quite hard to look at it with the turbulence, but an oil rig. Whoa. Power on. And the stall speed on this aircraft, especially when you dump the flaps, is incredibly slow. Really, it's saying flaps 1 for landing, and then flaps 2 and 3 is if you need a really steep approach. I'm just going to go flaps up until we're very late, otherwise it feels like we're hanging around all day. So let's pick up the speed actually, because I don't know what sort of plan the ATC has. It can be quite a long approach, so let's go to 4.5. As long as the RPMs are above 4,000, it's happy. There we go. But again, you're never going to get above 250 below 10, so in terms of maximum speed, just because you're near an airport, doesn't really matter, does it? So were there anything else? Turn right 120, which we did. Down to 2, which we did. Let's ask for altimeter.
Foxtrot, Oscar, Romeo. Request altimeter.
Foxtrot, Oscar, Romeo. Los Angeles International, altimeter 2988.
So 2988 is in. I'm going to turn this off now because we'll not need that, and then we can see this. There we go, 2988 as well. That's set. Let's use this one for the 80s just because we can. So I'll just have a little look if it has the frequency.
Foxtrot, Oscar, Romeo.
12775.
Turn left, heading 030. Foxtrot, Oscar, Romeo.
Left 030. So what did we say? 12775. So 127-75. Make it active. The RX means it's receiving.
Rain. Sky conditions. Scattered at 8,200. Temperature 19. Dew point 11. Altimeter 2992.
2992, at least where we're going. Here's 2989. I'm going to just pre-dial 2992. Let's see if we can switch over. I wonder if they'll let us switch. Let's come over here. Request frequency change to...
Foxtrot, Oscar, Romeo. request frequency change to Los Alamitos Army Air Force Tower on 123.85.
Foxtrot, Juliet, Sierra, Oscar, Romeo. Frequency change approved. Squawk 1,200.
This constant changing of squawk with the ATC on X-Plane.
Squawk 1,200. Contact Los Alamitos Army Air Force Tower 123.85.
1200. Providing there's no turbulence, it's not so bad. Okay, here we go. So Los Alamitos. Let's contact them for a visual.
Tower, Foxtrot, Juliet, Sierra, Oscar, Romeo.
And we'll drop the speed off now as well.
Foxtrot, Juliet, Sierra, Oscar, Romeo. Los Alamitos Army Air Force, altimeter 2988. Turn left, heading 320. Runway 04 right. Wind light and variable.
Los Alamitos Army
So we're
Air
expecting 04 right, runway 3, heading 320. 2988. Why the ATIS is 2992, but they're giving us 2988, I don't know. $2988 is in anyway, so we're expecting runway 04 right, which I think is the only one. Remember the other one was a much smaller, thinner one, but I guess if there's two, even if one is skinny, still say two. So where is the airfield in relation to where we are? Well, I'm not familiar with the area, so again a quick glance here. There's our aircraft, and we're coming up to it. Here we go. This is it here on the right hand side. So they basically got us on a base leg to turn right, and hopefully they will just bring us in and aren't just going to give us loads of weird instructions. The wind is blowing us closer to the airfield, so what I'm going to do is just come left myself by 10 degrees just to try and give me a bit of a better base leg. Let's increase the speed as well. And there we go. I'm sure I've seen an air demo or two by the US Air Force up and down this beach, Seal Beach. I'm sure of it. Thing is, though, I'm sure there's a few high rises that along here that don't seem to be modelled. Although there are some high rises up there, so maybe I'm preempting it a little bit. Come on, man. Just having a look, see if I can ID the runway. And I think that's it. In between the very weird raindrop effects, that right there is the airfield we're going for. So ideally I'd want to be left again, but I don't want to upset ATC too much. And there are the girls. So she was looking at me when I did the thumbnail. Nearly. Where are we? There we go. She's sort of pretty much looking at us now, the one in the front paying attention. The rain effects on the canopy, even from the external view, which looks great. What you need it now is on the rest of the fuselage. It'd be great if we saw raindrops dripping off the wings. I've yet to see that be done. First the canopy though. It's almost Starfield effects with the speed and the power. The runway's behind us a bit now, so this over here is a different airfield entirely. Loads of them round here. To reduce speed a bit. I'll tell you what, guys, because the ATC's a bit finicky, as you can see, they could have cleared us in, and it's just who knows where they're going to take us. I'm going to disconnect the autopilot And I'm just going to take it in myself. Sod the violations. Let's just get a flyby from this particular view. Whoa! Unfortunately, seems that we went slightly out of range there for some of the pylons. There we go, we're back in range now. That did look ugly. We weren't that far away. We can't have been more than a mile off. Nice. Alright, let's carry on down. Yes, I have to say, I mean, as I said right at the start, I'm not a general aviation buff in any sense of the words, and I just, again, it just feels overall it's a little too slow. But now with auto scenery, there's the stopwatch being to remind us to change tanks, which actually, good call. Over to the left tank and fuel pump on. So yeah, it's not something that I would usually do. Auto scenery does make it more viable, and with a highly detailed quality module like this, it is certainly something that now you can consider doing. Of course, you know, you're still flying VATSIM, just ask, you know, for a visual departure, and providing, you know, there's not some sort of event where ATC's chock-a-block, you can do it. And I suspect that towers that are a little quieter or where there's training going on, they like that sort of thing, because it's the only time that the tower actually gets to say anything more than, you know, takeoff and land. Assuming the other positions are staffed, you know, the actual ATC has a very limited job. So to have aircraft visually either doing circuits or departing to the north and I'll be back in 20 minutes or whatever, why not? Good way to get started on VATSIM as well. It's, I guess, out of all of the things, probably the least stressful. I just realised here this is not... There we go, Seal Beach to our right. Easy to mix airports up. Even in real life, there was that one a few years ago. That big, what was it? Was it Hercules or a Galaxy? Big transport aircraft from the US Air Force, and they went and landed at this neighbouring, it wasn't the airbase, they landed at this small civilian airfield nearby, got mixed up. I guarantee you that pilot probably didn't fly again after that day. And it's happened in real life as well with airliners where they've landed at the wrong airport. I mean, that would seem almost impossible to do now with all the, you know, the more advanced navigation display. But if you're going somewhere that's got a lot of airports and you're in for the visual and you see an airport and you think, oh, that's it, and it isn't, you can see how it can happen. I look at the rain, man, especially when it gets really bad. So let's turn in, and if ATC starts yapping, in fact, we best have the ability to detune just in case they do. RPM up to full then, so we'll set that 5800. All the lights are on. Fuel pump is on with left tank. So let's idle the engine. Now you can see, yeah, the right runway is much bigger and thicker, so that's where we're at. I'm just going to do a 270-degree corkscrew to the right, because we are still a little high. I did turn, I think, you know, I turned XP Realistic off. The rain and one or two of the, or the motion, it was the motion was just a little too aggressive in the turbulence, even when I turned it down. Made clicking on the buttons, which is hard enough already in the turbulence, impossible. There we go. Alright, gear maximum 70 knots, so let's reduce speed to 69. gear down. Start trimming back. So you can see we've not got any flaps yet, and if I was to start putting them down, we'd be up here all day. We're currently, and again, maximum speed for the first notch is 65 knots. So here we're on 65 knots right now, which is a very comfortable landing speed as it is. What I will do is I will deploy the flaps at 65 knots, so you'll see the difference. Here we go, 3, 2, 1, flaps. See that lift there, that jolt as we get it. Now look at the speed die off. And only now are we beginning descent. Now look how slow we can get this now. Let's go flaps 2. We're less than 60.
Oscar Romeo. Approach clearance cancelled. Resume on navigation.
Approach clearance cancelled.
Right, let's just ignore them. So here we go, full flaps. Look at the speed, 49 knots. We are coming in steep. 50 knots. And of course, your old friend slip. The manual does say that the slip is not very effective, but I've found it is. Let's decrab. A little bit of a quartering tailwind, so I'm going to put a bit of power on now. Much lower to the runway that I'm used to. There we go, touchdown. We've got the ATC violation up there. We're going to ignore that. Bit of left rudder, not even needing any brakes here. We're so slow as it is, and you see the speed there dropping off very quickly. Let's pick the flaps up, 3, 2, 1, 0. And with that, I think I'm going to end the video. And so, yeah, without doubt, the best general aviation aircraft I own, no question about it. And I would also say, I mean, I own about 60, you know, I have to say this once in a while because there's new people. I own about 60 modules now across various flight sims, mostly DCS and X-Plane. I own 3 or 4 in Microsoft Flight Sim 2020 and 1 or 2 others, you know, I have the Queen of the Skies. But the only reason I'm saying that is this aircraft is probably the best aircraft that I own for any sim that costs $30 or less. And again, this one was like $29.95 or something at the time of me buying it yesterday. Is it worth it? Absolutely. Is it fun? Yes. Is it well made? Yes. Are there 1 or 2 minor issues like what we discussed in this video? Yes. How does it feel to fly like a light aircraft? Is it twitchy? Surprisingly not so, considering it is such a small light aircraft. I think it's very difficult for sims to get small aircraft not behaving in a twitchy fashion, but Areobask have done it. Obvious criticisms: radio volume doesn't go loud enough when you're in flight, and as you can see, we had to basically work around by reducing the volumes across the board. Is that their fault or Laminar? I suspect Laminar, but we have seen aircraft get it right, so I don't know. But yeah, it's 99% there, and for considering it only came out yesterday, I mean, this is amazing. Go get it. See you later. Internet flight rules. Ta-ra.